Thanks, Jordan, and appreciate y'all having me. As you mentioned, I'm Chris Monroe, and I'm with RxResults. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we got started, and also some of the resources that we utilized around what we call the Arkansas entrepreneurial ecosystem that may help some other entrepreneurs in some budding startups as well. This is a slide that we put together. For starters, we started our company back in the summer of 2009. So we may be a little bit further along the startup path than some of the folks that have presented to y'all in the past. But I think what Jordan's intent was to profile what's been a short-term success in our eyes. And it's real important that we give credit to a lot of the folks that assisted in our growth and as we got started. So we put together a slide here that we call the Arkansas entrepreneurial ecosystem. And you're going to see some very familiar faces and some that may be new to y'all. But we leveraged some of these resources as we got started. For seed funding, the folks at Innovate Arkansas do a great job in helping entrepreneurs tell their story better and more effectively to a target audience. We utilize the folks over at CFO Network, Arkansas Venture Forum, Clark Bova, AEDC, Brad Henry over at ADFA, Arkansas Research Alliance, Fund for Arkansas Future was one of our original angel investors. So there are a huge amount of resources here in Arkansas that can assist companies as they get their start and either look for talent or money. And we are an example of that who leverage some of these resources. RxResults, we are what we call an evidence-based risk management company. That's a mouthful. But effectively, we work with large employers, roughly 1,000 employees or more, in helping reduce their prescription drug costs within the confines of their health benefit program. So I went to an all-boys Catholic. Jordan and I both went to Catholic High, and we wrote essays about everything. So we always started with the end in mind, and we'll support it throughout, and we'll wrap up at the end, and I know late Father Tribu would appreciate that. But effectively, we're reducing costs by about 15% of overall drug spend. That's dramatic. Pharmacy costs are about 20% of overall health benefit costs. So if you follow that math, we're reducing healthcare spend by about 5%. The members of these prescription drug plans for these large employers are also reducing their out-of-pocket cost. And this represents a 20+% average reduction in cost below national trend. So we're real excited about the idea that we are an advocate on behalf of payers, the employer, the ones paying the bill, and you, the member, who also are responsible for a particular copay with any sort of therapy. To date, we've reduced costs by over $230 million. Once again, we're real excited about our ability to reduce cost for these employers. This is wordy here, so I'm going to make it brief. Our story goes back actually to 2004, when the state of Arkansas voted to utilize the University of Arkansas College of Pharmacy's evidence-based prescription drug program to help manage the prescription drug program for both Arkansas Medicaid and also Arkansas Employee Benefits Division, which is all the state employees and the school teachers. Okay? Status quo, an employer utilized a pharmacy benefit management company, or PBM rather, to help manage prescription drug costs. Everyone in here has a card in their wallet that they utilize to get their prescription drugs. It's either run through your carrier, such as Blue Cross or United, or it's a standalone pharmacy benefit company, such as Express Scripts or Caremark. A couple of household names. We're not a PBM. We are a third-party overlay or an enhancement or a bolt-on to standard core scope of services that a PBM offers. But the Surgeon General of the state of Arkansas, Dr. Joe Thompson, who sits on the oversight committee for both Medicaid and the Employee Benefits Division back in 2004, was completely frustrated at rising drug costs on behalf of about 730,000 Arkansans. And what he felt was there was a lack of innovation from the PBM industry, primarily tied to a rebate relationship that PBMs have with the prescription drug manufacturers. We inherently consider that somewhat of a conflict of interest or an outside influence that costs the payers and members more than they should for their prescription drugs. So in 2004, the state of Arkansas voted to adopt EBRX as a third-party, out-of-house clinical formulary manager. So for the College of Pharmacy to provide independent and unbiased advice or clinical recommendations within their drug plan. By doing so, between 2004 and 2008, the state realized over $100 million in reduction in prescription drug costs, based solely on EBRX's inclusion within the pharmacy benefit plan of those two programs. So the Chancellor, Dodd Wilson, at the time in 2009 said we need to create a private sector, for-profit company to commercialize this model create a revenue stream for UAMS and the College of Pharmacy, and also offer this independent and unbiased model to other payers. So the three of us created RxResults in the first quarter of 2009 to do just that. We are a joint venture with the College of Pharmacy. They're a small equity component of our company. We have a master service agreement with them for them to provide this core clinical, independent, and unbiased research to our clients. And we have an exclusive marketing arrangement with UAMS EBRX program to commercialize this model. So that's where we came from. So when we started our company in 2009, that's the joint venture nature of our relationship. So we consider ourselves an integrated pharmacy risk management company primarily because, as I mentioned briefly earlier, we're not a PBM, but we're an add-on to that, an enhancement, a clinical overlay. The old BASF commercial, we don't make a lot of the products that you buy, we make up a lot of the products that you buy better. Status quo, 91% of prescriptions filled today are filled through a PBM. Of that, there are 4 players, all in the Fortune 120, who dominate about 70% of that market share. Those are some huge influencers. And some of the 3 key factors when a physician writes a prescription is the detailed marketing to the physician, the consumer advertising that you see on TV, and most importantly, the rebate contract between the PBM and the prescription drug manufacturer. But there are choices that are available. Nexium, for example, is one of the most prescribed drugs in the country. It costs about $200 a month. In a normal copay structure, the member is going to pay about $30 a month if it's a preferred brand, which it usually is. The plan is going to pay $170. Generic omeprazole costs about $18. Does the exact same thing. The exact same thing. All the evidence that UAMS has put together, that's an example. So in that case, the plan or your employer will pay $8. Generic copay structure typically $10. So it's a windfall savings for both the plan and the member. But most of the time, status quo PBM is not going to let you know that there's an alternative available for that brand that's a therapeutic equivalent but not a direct brand to generic, but those are some details. So we consider ourselves a team of pharmacists, physicians, industry experts that use some analytics and some independent, unbiased research to help payers reduce their cost. Jordan? So I mentioned earlier we're going to start with the end in mind. I'm going to support it again. This is a case study of one of our clients, the Arkansas Municipal League, and they gave us permission to use this case study. This green line shows their prescription drug costs since they've been a client of ours since January 1, 2010. Dramatic reduction in costs. Their per member per month pharmacy costs, so add up all their pharmacy costs, divide it by the number of eligible members, was about $57 a month. Okay? 4.5 years later, they're at $39.91. The red and white line shows where they would have been without us. Using a 5% annual inflation rate, they'd be at $81 per member per month. $81 times 14,000 per month. Right now, they're at 14,000 times $39.91. Dramatic reduction in cost. This is a shift from the status quo within the pharmacy benefit space. Just a sampling of some of our clients. We now have clients in 13 states. We work primarily through employee benefits consultants, Stevens Insurance, Bancorp South, Lockton, Gallagher, and also some healthcare analytics companies that were responsible for aggregating pharmacy, medical, and workers' comp claims. And they consider ourselves a solution within the pharmacy benefit space. But once again, roughly 13 states. We work with both public and private sector employers. Dillard's and Creek Carrier are both publicly traded companies where we've been able to make an impact. You recognize a couple of those other names on there. Nabholz and Conway and the Employers Health Coalition based over in Fort Smith. Once again, just a sampling of our employers. Our smallest client's about 500 employees, and our largest has 40,000 belly buttons, group over in Texas. Just once again, we're probably at a little different stage, but with the help of some of the resources that I profiled earlier in the Arkansas entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is now a term used quite a bit, I think. I don't think we created it, but we were a beneficiary of that. This just shows a trend of our revenue. We're going to finish 2014 just shy of $2 million, and we estimate that to grow considerably in 2015. We're real excited about that. We started with 3 of us, and we now have 9. We just completed a capital raise a couple of weeks ago that we've been working on throughout the course of this year, and we'll add slated, it could be up to 20 people over the next 18 months. So we're really excited about the job creation here in Arkansas. I'm a native of Arkansas, and again, we think of ourselves as an example of success here locally. So what are some startup challenges? Every company is going to have market challenges that are going to be specific to their particular space. For us, it's the PBM industry. It's the big elephant in the corner of the room. Those are huge influences, but we feel as if one by one employer at a time, if we're able to reduce costs for both the plan, really the one paying the bill, and you as your copay, if we can reduce both those costs, we can make a difference. We always like to say, I didn't ride in on a white horse wearing a white hat, but we truly do feel as if we're an advocate on behalf of payers in the prescription drug industry. And the PBM industry is almost as complicated as airline seats. And what we try to do is provide some clarity on behalf of our payer clients. In our particular space, the healthcare market is very fluid. You have the Affordable Care Act, you have PPACA, there's a lot of moving parts in today's healthcare market. And once again, we're trying to provide some clarity on behalf of our payer clients. And we're a challenge to status quo. This is not something necessarily new to me. I've started 2 other companies, both of which I've sold in a couple different industries, the aftermarket commercial airplane parts and litigation copy services. I won't bore you with those, but both of them were a challenge to the way we've always done it. Everybody's been in meetings and someone's response to a suggestion or a thought or a methodology is that's just not how we've done it. I mean, in its simplest term, I hear that at the baseball park that I'm affiliated with. How we've always done it, to me, isn't a very good answer for anything. I don't ever tell my kids because I said so. That's not a valid reason. So challenging status quo, I think, is a challenge for any startup. We think we're meeting that challenge on behalf of our clients. I'm going to call them legacy challenges. It's 2 things. It's money and people. Everybody has great ideas. Everybody has great ideas, but unless you have people, human resources, if you will, to go out and capitalize or execute on a particular idea, the idea or the methodology or the thought is meaningless. And it takes all types. It's not a very good baseball team with 9 shortstops. Anybody who coached baseball realizes that ain't no good. So it does take all kinds. My partner's a pharmacist and a visionary, and my other partner runs operations. So the 3 of us are a 3-legged stool that work very well with one another. They don't want anything to do with sales. I don't want anything to do with payroll. So it works out pretty well. So always something to consider when you're putting your team together. But money and people is the most important thing. We've been very fortunate, once again, going back to the Arkansas entrepreneurial ecosystem that got us started. Fund for Arkansas Future was one of the first. We are very blessed and fortunate that 2 weeks ago this Friday we closed on a $4 million capital raise. About 2/3 of that was local private equity dollars. The rest of it was out of state. And that's really going to give us the resources to grow and expand not only our infrastructure but also our product development. And I won't be the only mouthpiece for RxResults, as I'm planning to hire a couple other salespeople as well. So we're excited about that. But there is money available if there is a good model and a good management team in place. And then opportunity, as I've mentioned several different times. There are so many resources available here in Arkansas. So anyway, that's our story. I spoke very quickly just out of respect to time. So I'll take a breath.
Yeah, we thank you for that. Thank you. Give it up for Chris. All right, so that's going to open it up to questions. Who has the first one? I know there's probably a lot.
Thank you, sir. Great presentation. Just so I understand the business model, you're taking all the employees and you're understanding their risk factors, like their demographics, their past history maybe, and then you're equalizing that over the... Tell me exactly your business model.
Not really. So let me back up and explain. Once again, I was talking quickly earlier, and I was really speaking at a 40,000 level. So there are therapeutic categories in the prescription drug industry. Currently, there's roughly 50 therapeutic categories. And in each of those choices, in each of those categories, rather, there are choices. We're going to pick on the PPIs, for an example, the proton pump inhibitors, the anti-ulcer drugs, Nexium, Acifex, Prilosec, Dexilant. About 9 choices currently within that class. The College of Pharmacy, UAMS, through their independent, unbiased research and their collaborative research has determined, and this is not rocket science, Those are all the same. Anybody here taking Nexium, it's no different than generic omeprazole. I'm no pharmacist. You're going to have to trust me on that. But the purple pill is the most prescribed drug in the country. One strength just went over the counter. But for those of you who are really stuck on brands, I bet you're still taking it. And it's over the counter now. So you see where I'm going. But so there's a huge discrepancy in cost against what the colleges deemed clinically indifferent drugs. They do the same thing. But as I framed up earlier, the $200 Nexium and the $18 omeprazole, there's no reason why any employer, we think, should be paying $200 for their Nexium. Embedded within that $200 is a huge rebate going back to the PBM to ensure that stays in a preferred brand category. So everybody in here continues to take their Nexium, and they don't want y'all to know that there is a clinically equivalent therapeutic alternative. Because if you go to the pharmacy counter and say, is there a generic for this Nexium? No, ma'am, there's not. Because until recently, there's not. But you would never know to ask, was there a clinically equivalent therapeutic alternative? You just wouldn't. So that's really where we're making a difference. So currently we have strategies in 18 therapeutic categories using that reference pricing model.
So it's based on the drug, not on any predictive analytics of the employee base.
We're deploying that strategy across an employer population basis. We call it reference-based pricing. And I'm going to go back to a silly youth sports analogy. You can go get Nike football cleats for $75 all day. But my son wants the one with his number on the back and all this other business, and they're $150. That's cool. I'm contributing $75 towards said cleats. If you want the fancy one, you got to pitch in the rest. That's the defined contribution methodology we are telling an employer. You're going to pay for X. You're going to pay $8 towards any PPI. And if you want Nexium, you're on the hook for $192. I bet you're not married to the purple pill any further when it's going to cost you $192 a month. We're not out to get the PBM, but we are trying to make the employer, the one paying the bill, more accountable.
Hey, Lynn, folks, my uncle's Gourmet Barbecue Sauce. What about the size of the companies that you're dealing with? Is there the smallest company? What about the size of the companies?
We deal exclusively with what we call self-funded employers, employers that are large enough to take risk on their health benefit plan. So it's typically going to be 800 or 1,000 employees or more. With dependents, those plans usually end up being 1,800 people. Smaller plans with 6 or 8 or 50 or 100 are typically fully funded. You're going to hire Blue Cross and you're going to pay a premium every month. Regardless of your spend, you don't take any risk. But the big employers take risk. They're going to pay the claims. So it's those employers that are actually paying the bill. If you hire a carrier to run all those claims, you're just paying X dollars a month, and whatever claim hits the books is on Blue Cross because you paid your premium. So it's the self-funded employers. Our average employer size is about 3,500 lives.
2 questions, actually. Scott Stewart, Global View Capital Management. Are the PBMs out to get you?
Not yet.
Okay.
Because they don't like us. Because here, you ask a great question, and that's the frontline question when an employer says, that's great, I want 15% savings. I got a $3 million drug spend, I'm going to save $450,000. Let me call my PBM because we actually build our rules within the adjudication system or the processing system of the PBM on behalf of that employer population. So it does require their cooperation. They don't want to play with us. They do not, because we're going to cost them money. Most employers and their consultants will say, hold tight. I'm going to paraphrase here, but you're not going to cooperate with them. Well, the old Bill Cosby rule comes into play. Son, I brought you into this world. I can take you out and bring another one in just like you. So they'll find another PBM that has openly agreed to cooperate with us in a transparent manner. Transparent's overly used in a lot of industries, but that's what we're trying to do. So when a PBM won't cooperate and collaborate with them, the consultant, Stevens Insurance, for example, or Bancorp South, or Regions, will say, fine, we'll find another player. And there are PBMs that will cooperate with us. So they're not out to get us yet. We've had some candid conversations with CEOs of 2 different publicly traded PBMs, one didn't end very well, and one of whom is pretty excited to work with us because they actually feel like we could be a silver bullet for them to compete with the big 3. So,
Second question then. We've all probably heard stories about generic drugs that aren't therapeutically equivalent, but the College of Pharmacy enables you to avoid that kind of misstep. Is that correct?
that's correct. And when Arkansas Medicaid vetted this program back in 2004, you can imagine the oversight required to do so. That's right. Yes, sir.
Doug Collins, Collins Consulting. Chris, great presentation.
Thank you.
And we realized a lot of savings back when, in the early 90s, when there was reform in workers' comp. It was amazing how much profit went to the bottom line because of the tort reform with workers' comp. So I totally understand what a financial officer or CEO sees in your product. What I'm having a hard time understanding is this $4 million capital infusion. I mean, you're a bunch of guys that are out there selling a product that is a no-brainer for a self-funded program. So help me understand what this capital, it seems like organic growth would be pretty easy for you guys. There ought to be a good profit margin in this whole thing. So help me understand this $4 million capital infusion to your 9-member team.
Great question. I'll answer it in 2 parts, and I'll make it brief, Jordan. First of all, the 2 obstacles to market for us is the influence of the PBMs themselves. So we've done, on a complementary basis, we'll do a retrospective analysis of an employer's pharmacy claims to produce a document that shows the potential impact that we could have on that particular plan. At that point, these employers, like you said, no-brainer. And I've walked out of more meetings. I walked out of one yesterday in Columbus, Georgia, and said, this is a no-brainer. Well, I know how that's going to work. Because Express Scripts, their PBM, who's recent Fortune 500, the 22nd largest company in the country. And I bet you nobody here has heard of them. When Express Scripts and Medco merged, they merged for $29 billion. You look at the Fortune 100, they're all household names. Express Scripts, ESI, St. Louis, Missouri. They're the PBM. So when the employer, the city of Columbus, consolidated city of Columbus, Georgia, goes to Express Scripts and said, we're going to work with these go-getters down in Little Rock, these 9 characters from Arkansas in this College of Pharmacy, and they're going to say, no, you're not. We're going to raise your rates. We're not going to cooperate with them. We're not going to give them access to our online adjudication platform. It's a huge obstacle. So that's the part that's not a no-brainer, because we're going to cost them money. So now we have several PBMs that when a company goes out for RFP for PBM services that are now embedding us within their model. Or the consultant said this is the right thing to do. So we're a part of the RFP. So I'm going to paraphrase. So now we're getting some traction in that environment. So when a company is considering a change of a PBM, we're in the RFP. So every PBM that's going to bid on that particular piece of business, the rules of cooperation and collaboration are right there. And I'm going to paraphrase by saying, by responding to this RFP, you have agreed to work with RxResults. If you don't want to work with them, don't bid. So now all of a sudden we're getting some traction in that community, and we have some tangible traction there where we really don't care what the PBM thinks. So it hadn't been a no-brainer. First of all, in the first couple of years, it was only early adopters who took kind of a cowboy mentality and said, hold on, the PBM's doing what? I want these savings. So the relationship with the PBM is very, very unique. The $4 million capital raise specifically is going to be for the development of 2 products, one of which is a specialty pharmacy, which is all the high-dollar injectables. There's no strategy for that. There's over 400 drugs in the specialty pipeline, and they range from $500 a month to about $30,000 a month. These are staggering figures, and no one has a response for the protocol delivery of specialty. And the College of Pharmacy is developing one. We're co-developing that with our team of pharmacists. We have 2 pharmacists on staff. So that specialty product that no one has an answer for is part of that. Secondly, because of some of the strategic relationships that we have developed and we're deploying throughout the course of 2015, we're going to require a very robust information technology team, of which we have 2 people now. We've built our own proprietary analytics software platform, but it's got to grow. We have an account management team that's an army of 1, and we're now adding clients. And to implement these clients and to manage them and to service them, you know, I'm on the front end. Once we sign a contract, I'm going to the next one. So when someone calls and says, I got an issue, so everybody has a specific role. And so building out that team and infrastructure is going to give us, we can go to an AT&T, or we can go to some of these really large employers and have the bandwidth to be able to support them. So we're really prepping for growth, product development, growth, and then we're going to have a couple extra salespeople on the ground to fuel that growth. So that expansion internally first is key when we go out and continue to pursue some of those larger strategic partners. You bet.
Hi, Chris. My name is Mike McGowan. As a risk mitigation company, is your revenue based then on the percentage of savings?
Great question. It's not a percentage of savings. We base it on a flat admin fee relative on a per claim basis. So if you're running 100,000 claims per year, our fee is anywhere from $1.50 to $2 per claim, but our ROI is anywhere from 5 to 1 to 10 to 1. So we're going to charge you $2 a claim. We're going to save you $8, $9, $10 a claim, and we'll guarantee our fee 2 to 1. So the worst you can do is double your money relative to our admin fee. But it's not a percentage of savings. That really gets into some of the age-old PBM games. Who takes credit for what? And we like to be very transparent with our fees. Secondly, our only revenue stream is our employer payer clients that are receiving the benefit of our services. We don't have a revenue stream from the PBM, any prescription drug manufacturer. That is it. That maintains our independence.
All right. Well, that was all the time we had for questions. But thank you guys for the great quality questions, and thank you. This is an amazing product that you guys have, and it's just really interesting to see that this grew up here and all the things that you mentioned in the ecosystem. But one thing you didn't mention was that you're actually contributing back, one, by coming here, and we thank you for that, but two, the other day when I was working with the Art Challenge, I noticed you were over there as well, helping out some of the companies who I see a few here, mentoring those companies and giving them your insight and that knowledge and know-how and experience that they're trying to get to where you are. So we're really, really excited to see the success, and we wish you well going on. One thing we do to end every single 1 million cups is we ask you, what can we do as a community to help support you? You guys are kicking ass, so there may not be a whole lot, but what is the one thing that us as a Little Rock entrepreneurial community can do to help support you with RxResults?
Well, now he's asking a selfish question.
Yeah, by all means.
Access I'd sum it up by one word: access. When we go to a Murphy Oil Corp, you see all the names on this wall right here out front. When we go to a Murphy Oil Corporation, or we go to Windstream, and we're an Arkansas company that's putting dollars back into UAMS and reducing cost as you, the employer. To us, you would think it would be a natural that I'm not picking on Murphy Oil or Windstream, but as a couple of examples, why they wouldn't want to take advantage of something that's creating Arkansas jobs, that's reducing costs for themselves as the payer, their employees, and also creating a revenue stream for UAMS. And everybody knows how important UAMS is to the entire ecosystem in Central Arkansas and beyond. And so access to some of those folks, Jerry Adams, for example, Arkansas Research Alliance, has done a fantastic job of providing entrees for us into Tyson Foods, for example, and Axiom. So getting access to those type of employers is huge, because our largest clients really to date are not Arkansas companies. So to think that we're saving money for employers outside of the state of Arkansas is a little bit counterintuitive. You would think that we would start here and expand, but the majority of our revenue actually comes from outside the state. So access would be the most important thing.
Going forward. Nicholas, make sure you tweet that one out. All right, well, thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.